This is my F80 M3, and over the past few months, I've been building it to be a track car and a weekend car that I can just absolutely abuse on the weekends. So far, we've done a roll cage, we've done seats, we've done a little bit of aero, we did an OEM GTS CS hood, some new wheels and tires, and we have a set of Nitron R3 coilovers. But with about 4 to 5 weekend events on this car so far this year, there's some changes I want to make and some updates that I want to do to a few bits in the car just to get that little bit of extra performance. So today I've got a whole slew of parts that are going to go onto the M3 that's hopefully going to make it perform even better on the track and get us just that little bit of extra lap time. So let's get this car in the garage and in the air so that we can throw on all these parts and get the car ready for the next few events at the track. Well, here you go, guys. Today we're going to be installing a bunch of mods to kind of update the full suspension on the M3. So starting off, we're going to be doing the full SPL kit. These are every single arm that SPL offers, all the way around, front and rear on the F80, so that we replace every single bushing now to the solid spherical bushings. We have full adjustability for every single one of our arms, and that'll allow us to, kind of dial in the fitment a little bit better, change the alignment specs to exactly what we want, as well as kind of maintaining a little bit better alignment geometry mid-corner. So basically the issue that happens is the stock bushings are rubber, and under cornering, the tires go under excess load, and that causes the bushings to flex a little bit, and you end up losing whatever alignment specs you had set mid-corner. So one of the issues that I'm having on the front of this car actually is that under heavy braking, the front end toes out. So both tires toe out, and I've kind of been going through tires a little bit faster than normal, as well as I get like this shake in the front wheel. And basically what that is the left, right, and the right tire are sitting there and they're straight. And then as soon as I step on the brakes hard, the front end compresses and the tires toe out and the whole car wants to go side to side. So I'm getting quite a bit of that under heavy braking. And I'll tell you one thing, that's not something that you want, and it's a little bit unnerving when you're at 150 miles an hour and you mash on the brakes and the whole car jumps side to side. Having spherical bushings will definitely help with that. And then in the rear, we have all the arms as well. So all the arms are going to be getting replaced, going to this SPL kit, and that will also help, with some on throttle stuff, and also same issues. Corner exit, basically, that the rear of the car is not in the alignment specs that I had chosen, as well as we have some subframe bushings. So this is the lower control arm bushing for the rear subframe, also solid, just so that we reduce all of that flex that we're getting from the stock rubber bushings. And then while we're there, in order to do the rear, you do have to drop the subframe just a little bit in order to get to one of those bolts down there on one of the arms. While we're there, I figured might as well do a diff lift kit. So this is the Bimmerworld kit. Comes with the PowerFlex brace, as well as Bimmerworld's solid aluminum bushings. And then these lift the rear diff by about 14 millimeters. And that accounts for the rear lowering from the coilovers, so that we get the axles back into proper alignment. So when you lower the car, it kind of lowers the axles a little bit and puts them at a new angle, and that just causes a little bit of increased wear on the axles over time. So with this kit, we will lift the rear diff back up. We go to a solid bushing, so we have a little bit less play throughout the drivetrain, a little bit better throttle response, as well as getting those axles back into the correct place. So today we're going to be doing all of that. It's probably going to take us a few days, but we'll be getting these rears off. We're going to start with the rear subframe and then work our way up to the front, where we'll get all these arms replaced as well. Gonna be quite the task this weekend, but should be a good time, and hopefully we got everything to complete this install, and we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and get the rear end of this thing down. We're gonna have to drop the whole rear subframe, and we'll start with the subframe lift kit, and then we can get to doing all the arms in the rear, and finally we finish up with all the arms in the front. Then Tuesday, a few days later, I'm gonna go ahead and go grab an alignment and get this car all sorted back up before our next event. Now I do have a few more parts that I'm gonna throw on, so I went ahead and grabbed all new pads. There are new front rotors coming, new pads in the rear as well as some titanium shims that I grabbed so that we can try and keep the cooling for this. Caliper, all good. I did end up grabbing the kit from Westerson Motorsport, so we're gonna be getting that second lower duct on the car, and that'll be scooping up to that second duct that you guys saw when I installed those new dust shields. So it'll be coming to the backside of the caliper and keeping everything cool. Luckily, I was able to send him the measurements of these front lower control arms, and he made some adjustments to the drawings that he had and had them 3D printed to match perfectly. So let's get this rear end dropped. It's gonna be quite a while, but I'll keep you guys updated as we kind of make our way through it. Let's get this subframe dropped and get all these parts installed. Okay, so we've jumped quite a bit ahead. We got the whole rear subframe dropped. Drive shaft is all lowered. We only had to take off the rear calipers, and then you just take out all the bolts here. We have a trans jack holding this up and 2 jacks holding up the subframe. So we've got all of that out. And right now we're messing with the front brace. So we're getting these bushings pressed out, and then we've got the other ones sitting in the freezer so that they can get cold, and we'll press them into the rear. But otherwise, it's just been a few hours. We got everything dropped. Once we get those, we'll get this rear brace put back in. Well, we have to take it out, so it's sitting right behind here. But we'll take that brace out, and that one is the one that we use the new bracket for. So we'll replace it with this bracket, and we have the dual bushing kit now rather than just one. Making good progress. We'll get these pushed out, and then we can get it installed. So we got all these bearings pressed in, and we finally got the rears pressed out and pressed in. Get underneath here. So as you guys can see, right here is the new one that we press in that wasn't used before, and then this is the one that we had to press out the old one and put in the new one. And now we need to clearance, if you can see right there my white mark. So we need to clearance the subframe a little bit for the differential, so that as it lifts up, there's a little bit of extra space just for the clearance. There's a top rib right here on this diff. So we just need to make sure that that rib clears, and then we're good. So then we can start bolting back up the bracing and put everything back together on the rear subframe. So our next update, we have the diff bracket in. It's right here. It's pushed up. You can see the 2 bolts right up here and up here. They are just loosely in. We haven't tightened them yet. And then around the front side, we have the bracket also in, and it clearances just perfectly up at the top of the diff. I had to clearance it up there to the brace, but clearance is just enough, so everything's just loosely in. Now we can get it all torqued, and then we can get back to putting the drive shaft in. We'll get everything torqued up, and then we're still gonna leave it on the subframe bolts here, the extended work bolts, so that we can do all the SPL arms. Okay guys, been a little while since our last update, but I went ahead and skipped ahead. We're now day 3 into this project, but we skipped ahead, we got a lot done. So full SPL rear kit is done, every single arm. You can see these are the top arms, the front traction arm, the rear traction arm, all installed, as well as we got the lower subframe bushing pressed in, so that's all SPL as well. And here we have the other side done as well, so every single arm in and torqued on the rear, as well as, like I said, there's the SPL arm. You guys can see the rear Bimmerworld Diff lift kit there with the brace from Powerflex, and then the front one's done like I mentioned. The only arms we have left are the front arms. Gonna go to lunch, and then we can get these front ones done. Other than that, we just got to get the diff raised back up. We're still on the service bolts. You need it for these upper arms. If you don't have the diff lowered, it's lowered like, if you guys can see, it's lowered like 2 to 3 inches right here. So if you don't have that, it's like nearly impossible to get this bolt right here and this bolt right here. And then in order to actually back this bolt out, you have to disconnect the sway bar right here, loosen both of these bolts, take them out, and then you can push the sway bar back. Then this can come out. But otherwise, we've got everything done up. We still have the coilover sitting here loose because we need to get the subframe back up. The diff is up in the middle, but we just have to lift this back up, or the drive shaft, not the diff. But we need to get that back on, and then we can get the front done. Then we can start throwing on everything. Everything else, we got the exhaust to throw on. All the heat shielding is still sitting down here. Everything just to go back. Make sure it gets all tight, and then later this week we have an appointment for an alignment. I'm gonna keep wrenching away. It's been a few days here, but I just wanted to keep updating you guys. I figured I wouldn't show you guys every single molten bolt that needs to come off. There are other videos of people doing that, and it's actually not too difficult once you get started. It's kind of understandable what needs to happen, but I also didn't want to make this video like 2 hours long of us messing around. Some of these bushings take absolutely forever to get installed, so I didn't want it to be just a nightmare. Other than that, we're looking pretty good. Let's get back to it. Well guys, here we are a few hours later. Full SPL installed in the front. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can't see it from down here. There we go. So we got the arms all installed, lower control arm, and the tie rod ends. So everything's all buttoned up at the front on both sides. So here we go. This side's also installed. Everything's buttoned up. We just finished like a little bit of an eyeball alignment here. We had a crazy toe in, so we got everything fixed. Then we had some crazy toe out on the rear, so went ahead and towed the rear in. We have the subframe is up. No more lowering bolts. Everything's all put together. The coilovers are back on. Everything's tightened up with the diff. Pretty sure everything's all plugged in. Still gonna do a few more checks. Now it's just time. We're gonna go ahead and get the covers underneath on the diff. So all this heat shielding needs to go back on, and then we can throw the exhaust back on, and then who knows, maybe we can get the wheels on and throw the car back down. It's been quite a process these 3 days, but we're on the final stretch, and I'm looking forward to getting this thing down on the road. Going for a quick rip just to see, make sure everything feels good, clear some codes, and hopefully no issues. And then we can go get an alignment in a few days, and everything will go well. So here we are, guys. It's the next day, so it's officially been about 4 days since we started this entire project, and car's back on the ground, and she's all good and ready to go. So yesterday we ended up getting the full SPL kit installed. We got the rears thrown on, the fronts thrown on, and then we got everything else put back together and assembled back to the car. So everything is all set. We had to get the subframe back lifted up, everything connected in the rear. So there was a bunch of sensors that all get unplugged. Then the brakes are obviously pulled off so that we could lower the subframe. All that had to go back up. All the heat shielding needed to go back up. There's a bunch of bracing back here that needs to go up, all the side trays and under paneling. And then we could finally throw the exhaust back on, and there's basically a bunch of covers and stuff that needed to go back up before we could get the car back on the ground and drive it. As you guys can tell, the car's kind of a little bit whack out of alignment right now. You can tell this wheel's like pretty well shifted forward in the wheel well. The fronts aren't so bad on the caster. The alignment was definitely all out of whack. So I did have to mess with some of the toe and whatnot. The rear is still a little bit wacky, and the front is definitely towed in, but it's just enough that it'll drive straight for now. And need to get it to the alignment shop so that we can get everything sorted, get the alignment dialed in, and get all this SPL back to what I need it to be for more track driving. So we are going to be using kind of the same setup that we had previously, which is about -3.4. We had -3.5 degrees of camber in the front. I'm probably going to tone that down a little bit, maybe like -3.3 in the front. In the rear, we were doing -2.4 degrees of camber, and I was limited by the OEM toe arms. So now I should be able to adjust that a lot better, and I should have a lot better adjustment on the rear to be able to make sure that I can run a little bit more camber while keeping the toe appropriate. We want to be slightly towed in, probably about 1/8 inch on the rear, and then we'll probably run about 2.6 or 2.7 degrees of camber in the rear, and that should be pretty solid in the rear. Now, like I mentioned, we did get the kind of alignment just like a little bit eyeballed into spec, enough that I was able to take it out for a test drive and go make sure that there aren't any weird sounds. The car's at least driving straight for now, enough for me to get it to the alignment shop, and make sure that everything underneath the car that we took off is solid, and no extra rattles or weird sounds or throwing any codes or anything like that. You know, this is quite a big install, dropping the whole rear subframe, disconnecting the drive shaft, lifting up the diff, replacing all the bushings and whatnot, and then replacing literally every single suspension arm on this chassis. We got everything all in. I was able to take it for a quick drive. It actually sounds pretty insane. So I'll throw up a short little clip that I got of driving just so you guys can kind of hear what that diff whine sounds like from the solid mount rear bushings. Honestly, just from the short rip that I was able to take around the street, I probably went like a mile or two up and down the street just to see how it felt, if it was making any noises, any of that. So the front end feels really good. I mean, I didn't really push it or anything on any turns, and obviously the alignment's out of whack. But just from pulling around the street and stuff, you can feel that the car is definitely very, very stiff and solid. You can feel all the spherical bushings definitely through the steering wheel. And that solid mount rear diff kit definitely makes a difference on the throttle response. Even just the slightest amount of throttle inputs and you can feel the diff, you know, engaging, and you can feel the power going through the entire drivetrain. So I feel like there's definitely a more connected, more visceral feeling from the drive shafts now that we have those solid bushings. And the noises that it makes are definitely very race car. You can hear the diff engage, disengage. Every time you get on throttle, off throttle, you can hear all of the gears kind of meshing together, and it's definitely a very cool experience. But I'm excited to get it aligned, that way I can really take it for a rip. I really don't want to drive it too much before I get the alignment, because I don't want to mess with the tires, you know, kind of screw them up, especially if we're out of tow. That'll really mess with tires pretty quickly. So we did end up rotating, so you guys can see this is RF, but I ended up rotating the fronts and the rears around to each other. So we have the rear tires on the front and then the fronts on the rear. And we can do that with our 295 setup. That's part of the reason why we wanted to do that. But the only reason is the fronts, or what were the fronts now that are on the rears, were wearing on the inside edge a little bit prematurely. And that was one of the reasons I needed to go to this SPL setup. I do have a few spares sitting here that we can go to whenever we need them. This install process definitely wasn't the most fun. I would estimate that I took about 35 hours worth of installing this. So the first day I was out here for about 9 or so hours, and then I spent between 12 and 13 hours every day after that, just out here trying to get everything done. The largest time consuming part was the rear diff subframe bushings. Getting everything off the first time really isn't so bad. Getting the exhaust and the drive shaft disconnected and the subframe lowered, that's really not such a big deal. But pushing out those 2 bushings on the rear on the subframe takes forever. You only have to push out 1 bushing, and it has this metal sleeve that it kind of sits in. There's just no space between the diff and the rear of the subframe, and so you just fight room to be able to get a press kit in there, and it takes a ton of time. We ended up getting that done, and then pressing the new ones in are even more difficult because they're solid, so they have absolutely zero play, and they like to kind of crab walk themselves in there, where they just kind of like zigzag in, where it goes in and it's crooked, it's crooked, it's crooked. And it's a pain in the butt to try and get it perfectly straight. And with this lift kit, you need to make sure that the offset bushings are perfectly straight up and down so that they'll align to the new rear subframe mount. So it's quite a hassle in the rear. And then once I got those in, I could press out the lower control arm bushings. Those also are quite tedious. We've got all those done, and now we have full solid bushings in the rear of the car. So we'll be set for some good track days. Definitely have some better feeling throughout the car. So like I said, I really didn't get to film too much of the install. I didn't want to bother you guys with it, and honestly at this point I was just trying to kind of get through the install. Overall, it's pretty straightforward, especially once you get to the SPL arms. They just take off the old ones, put on the new ones. Those are pretty straightforward. The bushing stuff really isn't too serious on the subframe. It just takes a little bit to know where the right plugs are to disconnect so that you can lower it. And then those 4 bolts are pretty simple. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Comment them down below or send me a message on Instagram. I'll be happy to answer with any questions that you guys might have on what the install is like, if you guys, might want to try tasking this on your own. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video. I do have some more parts that arrived while I was actually working on the car and installing. So we have a few more updates that's going to come before we're ready to take it to the next track event in, I think it's in 4 weeks. So we have a single day lap attack at MSR Crescent. A few more parts to come on the car before then. Like I said, we need to go get the alignment done. I know it's going to take some work, especially in the rear, to get this perfectly set up, and then we'll be ready to go. Hopefully the car will perform well, and we can maybe shave some time off of our lap times at MSR Crescent. I hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment. See you guys in the next video.